I'd like to congratulate the two keynote speakers on an absolutely fascinating talk. They've given me a lot to think about. I'm presently working on a paper and I'm glad I was here to hear them. So, to get on with the first of the symposia of the day, I would like to welcome Mikołaj Wolanin and his team. They are, well, I don't actually have the topic for your conference talk, but you will introduce that. It's going to be timed, it's 15 minutes per presentation, and at the end we will invite questions from the audience for each of the panels. Okay, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, and first of all, many congratulations to the Queen's University Belfast, to the Centre for Children's Rights for organizing such an amazing conference, and to Eve, of course. Well, yeah, for the about 15 minutes, something like that, we will focus on the students' ombudspersons. So we will be looking at questions regarding who they are, of course, what are their competences, where do they operate, and how do they operate, right? So our goal for the following 15 minutes will be to examine this institution, firstly, on the specific basis, because on the basis of the Polish law especially, but as broadly as it will be possible in that time. So firstly, it should be noted that, of course, in Poland we have some general ombudspersons, right? So we have this classical ombudsperson, we have the child commissioner, but they are operating national-wide, right? So there is only one ombudsperson for the whole state. But for example, we also do have specialized ombudspersons, right? So for example, this children one, but of course many other specialized ombudspersons as well. So those are also the institutions to whom students and pupils can write, and they do write to them. But it will never be enough, of course, since this is only the one. Since this is the only institution for the whole state, right? We also have school superintendents, right? School curators, something like that. But still, they do operate on the regional level, on the voivodeship level. It's like a state in the United States, it's like a state in Germany. It's like a district in the Northern Ireland, I suppose, and I believe, but I'm not the expert in the administrative looking of the Northern Ireland. But they mainly supervise school, but they do also have competences to protect the rights of the students. So before we move on, it seems that the definition of the student rights and the students, firstly, is needed, because it is a concept that gains popularity in Poland in recent years, especially. And when we are talking about student rights, we are talking mainly about the rights of pupils, about the rights of the people who do not go to schools on the university level, but on the lower levels, the high school, the primary school, the secondary school, right? So those are the students that are we looking at when we're talking about the student rights. But of course, we can relate some of our deliberations to the university level art, of course, too. But we cannot put an equals mark between the children's rights and the student rights. And there are two main reasons, I suppose, for that. Well, firstly, not every student is a minor, right? We have students who are over 18 years old and who are over any other age in any other state that gives them the maturity. And the second reason is that the right to education, the right to attend school, is only one of the rights of the child. But when we are talking about the student rights, well, this right now is one of the most basics right? Because we do have dignity, we do have rights and freedoms deriving from the dignity, but we also do need the right to education, the right to attend school at all, in order to talk about students' rights in general way, right? So those are the reasons why we do have to look at this difference. But of course, the children's rights, which have this advantage that they are qualified, strongly influence the regulations when it comes to the student rights at all. So who can therefore protect the rights of the students? Well, surely at the national level we have those ombudspersons, we have the general one, we have the child commissioner. At the regional level, we do have those educational superintendents, we have those curators of the education, something like that. But this will never be enough. We have over 4.5 million students in Poland. So two ombudspersons, 16 curators will never be enough, of course, especially when it comes to the raising awareness topics, right? When it comes to the education about the rights, not only the intervening, right, and giving help on the motion. So what should we do at the levels of a city, of a town, or even at the level of one particular school? Well, those are the areas where we can experience the student ombudsperson. And according to the research in Poland, sometimes the teachers are the ombudspersons, sometimes the students. But looking at the title of our speech, we will only focus on the student advocates at all. So what does this look like from the legal perspective? Well, such a function is not regulated at all, because we do have some statutes on the national level, but they do not speak about the students' ombudspersons at all. So how are they created? How are they established? How do we have people on those functions while we do not have anything about it on the statute level? Well, within schools, those people are often the members of the students' councils. So we do have the president of the school council, we do have some governmental body, right, something like that, the executive body maybe, but we do also have another function, very often, that is called student ombudsperson. And by this way, we can establish such a function, and we can elect a student to be an ombudsperson for him or her peers, his or her peers. Well, in cities or towns, however, the ombudspersons are often the employees of the city hall. So we do have a student, now mainly at the university level, who is simultaneously employed at the city hall and is called a student ombudsperson for the students within the town or within the city. But what is important, therefore, is that in this situation that we described in recent minutes, well, the students actually care for the rights of their peers, right? Because we do have a student who is some kind of advocate for its colleagues, for its friends who also attend the same school, right? So we can therefore compare them to, I don't know, the People's Tribune in ancient Rome, right? Because also we do elect those people, the students at school elect one or two people to simply protect their own rights in their name and in their interest at all. So looking at the time also, this obviously makes those persons a bit unqualified in law, but that's obvious since they are just students and not even at the university level mainly, right? So of course they will not be able to undertake complex cases. That's obvious, but we do not need this at all. We can go to national ombudspersons And there we have the lawyers who will cope with the case, right? But still, we do need the student ombudsperson at the school or at the city level, because this is the way by which we can first raise awareness about the rights and freedoms, we can educate about the rights and freedoms, and we can cope with some less complex cases. So also, we give the space for the national or regional ombudspersons to cope with the most complex cases, more complex cases, with more time or more space to do it, right? So we can call them students ombudspersons in school or within the city levels as some kind of first aid hub, right? As some kind of an institution or a function maybe, to whom one can turn to and simply describe the problem, right? And when the school student ombudsperson will think that he or she will cope with the case him or herself, that's okay. But he or she also can give appropriate addresses, appropriate institutions, appropriate details to whom the one can also tend to, right? And at the same time, it is also a good school of caring for the common good, right? Of caring for the local community, local environment, because we do have the student ombudspersons who are basically some kind of leaders within the peers, right? Who know exactly what the rights they do have, and who can educate their colleagues and friends. So all this therefore makes this function really positive. We can find it positive, despite maybe the fact that they cannot be fully qualified in law, which is obvious, but those people can give the first aid help. Yeah. And those people can give the first aid help, and by this first aid help, we can simply raise the awareness, we can educate about the rights and freedoms, and we can cope with the less complex cases. And this is all about the student ombudspersons, which makes them a bit a phenomenon, which makes them a bit unique in the global-wide perspective, but which are, I think, important because we do have some leaders, we do have some students that are especially qualified in the rights and freedoms, and thanks to it, the whole community can know more and more about the rights and freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mikołaj, and particularly for keeping to time, so that's excellent. I would now like to welcome up onto the stage Isaac. Are you actually there? Forgive me. Thank you very much, Isaac. You're very welcome. Isaac is going to speak about rights in reality.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for inviting me to come today. It's an absolute honour, definitely a career high. Thanks. Yeah, technology is not my strong suit, even though I'm supposed to be a young person. So I'm going to be focusing today on contextualising the UNCRC, primarily in the minds of children and young people. So this is going to be discussing some of my experiences as both a young person myself, as well as a facilitator and advocate for children's rights. Before we get started, a slight disclaimer, all of the tips, theories and ideas that I share with you today are purely based on my own experience, nothing formal, just the direct engagement that I've had with young people. Okay, there we go, and my face is now giant on that screen. Okay, didn't think this through. So now for a bit of an actual introduction. So I'm Arthur, I'm 15 years old and live in Cardiff in Wales. So I'm just about to enter on Monday, I've got that to look forward to, my second year as a learner at School of Humanity, which is an online high school where we learn through tackling global challenges and all project-based learning and that side of things. I'm also the founder and president of Future Youth Impact, which is a fully youth-led initiative where we aim to make youth voice and participation opportunities accessible for all young people. We partner with schools and other organisations to deliver focus groups, events, and release surveys that aim to capture the views of young people in a fun and creative way. More about FYI a little later on. As well as that, I am a member of the UNICEF UK Youth Advisory Board. My term is about to come to an end. We're releasing applications for the new cohort today, which makes me feel really old. And I presented during the UNCRC State Party Review earlier this year, which was a fantastic experience. Okay, so now that's all covered, I would like to talk about bricks. I know it seems a bit weird, but just trust me on this, it's going somewhere. So when I talk about children's rights to young people and professionals, I like to say that each article under the UNCRC, each right can be thought of like its own brick. Now, bricks serve a lot of different purposes. They can be used to, say, build a house, which contains childhood memories, or to construct a path leading all young people into their best possible future. Another thing that the UNCRC has in common with the brick wall is that if you try and build up this wall, and then just out of nowhere, kind of like a Jenga tower, you take out one of the bricks, well, the wall's going to fall down. And that speaks to the interconnectedness and interdependence of the UNCRC and all of the rights within that. And I don't know if anyone's seen my t-shirt yet, but it's all about the bricks, so yeah. That hopefully now that makes a bit more sense. I love using this analogy, and it's really useful to explain the convention to young people and like professionals and adults as well, to help them really understand the core purpose of the UNCRC. Because we talk so much about Article 12, and I love it, don't get me wrong, having the right to be heard and listened to, because we want to empower young people to claim this right and create an environment where they're able to make a real impact. But at the same time, we can't neglect the conversation about why rights are actually important. When understood and realised, children's rights have the potential to have a profound impact on an individual, but also society on a larger level. Now, last term in school, I was studying peace, and I found that acceptance of the rights of others was actually an indicator within the Positive Peace Index. Being the children's rights nerd that I am, I was very pleased to see that this link was being identified on an international scale. However, I was less happy to read that this was actually the weakest area for the UK. I then wanted to dig deeper into why this actually might be the case. And for me, it came back to the way we talk about rights. I understand that, like, across the sector, this isn't really our intention, but sometimes it can come off as a bit utopian, as a forgotten promise that no one really bothers that much to uphold. With all the crises that we talk about and we face both domestically and around the world, it's easy for young people to detach from the concept of rights, especially as children face the brunt of many of the pressing challenges. The fact that there are 54 rights dedicated just to them can seem a bit impossible at times. And I was supposed to do that and then say the wall falls, but I completely forgot that the slides exist. Okay, I think that's where we are. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so, yeah, contextualising children's rights and finding tangible ways where young people and adults too are able to think, oh yeah, this is happening because I have the right to that, or maybe I should speak up about this issue. We can make connections through our language and actions about how some things relate to rights, and then how this fits into the bigger picture of creating the best possible experience and future. It's about reframing rights in reality, but also, if we work together, potentially rights as the reality for all of us one day in the future. As you might have guessed, I'm an Article 12 guy myself, but I've mentored a young person through Future Youth Impact, and he brought up a very interesting point, that not enough kudos is given to Article 42, the right to actually know about your rights. Because not only then can you actively take that step to claim all of the other stuff that the UNCRC covers. They need to know about the convention so they can respect the rights of others. Myself and this young person came up with the idea that Article 42 can be thought of sort of like a gateway to empowerment and active realisation of the UNCRC. But we need to have an open and consistent dialogue using analogies like the bricks and others as well, resources, and explanations that will hopefully become commonplace. I'm supposed to be on the last slide. It really doesn't matter, just ignore the presentation. All right. Okay, a bit of confession time now. So my mum often points out that I am not the best at multitasking. Listening to music whilst writing this presentation was an absolute disaster, as you can tell from my lack of knowing what I'm doing with the slides. I might not be the master of DJing the UNCRC articles, But over the last few years, I've worked to perfect the tasks of accessing my own rights, whilst also supporting other young people to do the same. As a part of Future Youth Impact, I frequently go into schools and youth groups to essentially talk about bricks. And I can see the difference in young people's attitudes when it's a teenager delivering a session. It captures their attention. Look, there's another kid just like us interested in this topic, and engages them on an authentic level. They feel empowered by the fact that someone their own age has found the opportunity to make change and wants to share that with them. More young people feel comfortable to share parts of their personality and are willing to express fantastic ideas without the worry of being judged or misunderstood. Young people facilitating can level the playing field and reduce the power imbalance. This approach creates a sustainable cycle of participation and general development, where the conversation around children's rights and innovative ways to have a say remains prevalent. Okay, now we're on the right slide. We're back up to date again. Okay. Now I would briefly like to share some of the frameworks that I use within FYI to engage with young people. So when I go into a school or a youth group, we generally start with a discussion around values, with some interactive games. We get people like running around the room, and then I become Bob the Builder for a few minutes, going into the brick stuff again. However, the main activity usually comprises of giant pieces of flip chart paper, loads of coloured markers, and random stickers. What we ask the young people to do with that is to design their own perfect planet or ideal city. Using prompt questions, they are challenged to think about education, health, transportation, leisure, and other important topics, coming up with ideas that have incredible potential to make a real-life difference. Yeah, we sometimes have things like KFC in space and Snowman Olympics are some of my personal favourites. But isn't that what participation should really be? Everyone laughing, having fun, feeling included, and allowing their creative juices to flow unrestricted. Naturally from there, we shift into what children's right does this link to, and how would this help the snowmen to achieve their potential? The day generally ends in some feedback, as well as chanting Article 12 all the way, which is a catchphrase that I'm really trying to get to stick. This day of excitement and learning can then be translated into a bank of projects that these young people could make reality, having learned about the convention, actively exercised their right to be heard and listened to, and embedded play, non-discrimination, and friendship into the experience. There we go, okay. An important message that I've learned during my time as a facilitator, as well as a participant, is that no two groups of young people are the same. You can't regurgitate the same exact material every time, because some young people will buy into it, and others won't. And that is totally okay. The world would be such a boring place if we didn't have diverse personalities. It makes what we do interesting and rewarding, but also at times a bit difficult and spontaneous. I want the young people to influence my actions and methods at every stage, whether that be what they express verbally or what I infer through their level of enthusiasm. I'm not going to get it right every single time, but it's important that I learn and adapt based on the sessions. I established FYI just over a year ago now because I identified a gap in the sector. So I asked young people what they thought, conducting a survey which had responses from 10 countries. They told me what was missing and how I could fill that void. They wanted to have choice, easy access sessions that enabled them to express themselves in whatever format they preferred, having the assurance that if their ideas were not communicated in the traditional format, they would be given equal weight in decision making. So I wanted to create that for them, working in collaboration with organisations already doing amazing work. I have to adapt my practice on a 5-minute basis when I'm out in the field, on a monthly basis when talking about methodology, but that allows me to learn and all the young people to participate, and that really makes it worth it. Okay. So participation and Article 12 have provided me with so many opportunities to learn and grow in a field that I'm deeply passionate about. I feel honoured to have been able to support other young people to do the same, and I'm really proud of the advocates and activists that they are becoming. I'm sharing some of these lessons with you to hopefully help to further young people's involvement in this part of the children's rights conversation. And I might say, just by having a student and young person's panel, it's brilliant that that's already happening here today. Because although at times, I wrote this before I realised how many people were actually going to be here today. And I said, it might feel small, but it actually doesn't feel that small. It feels pretty awesome here right now. But children's rights, it really does have the power to change the world and change our world for young people. So yeah, thanks so much for listening. And we've got all of the social medias there. But yeah, I'd be happy to take any questions, wherever it is right, or come up and have a chat about it later. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Arthur. And we will now hear from Kevin Shortall and St Aidan's Community School. You're very welcome.
Hi everybody, my name is Chaney. This is Nadine, Gibbons and Majella, and we're going to present to you the SPOTLITE programme. So SPOTLITE stands for Students' Perspective on Teaching and Learning in the Educational Space. We worked with our teacher, Shane Casey, and our principal, Kevin Shortall, in order to deliver this to all staff. Yeah. So behind me on the screen, you can see a map of where our school is located. Our school is in the Republic of Ireland, in Dublin, right in the middle of Tallaght. This is our school from the top. In St Aidan's Community School, students and staff work together to highlight, understand and deliver a shared model of highly effective practice in learning and teaching. Students visit lessons other than their own, observe, take notes and collaborate with the learners and teachers to achieve the above. Key agreed upon recommendations are shared and adopted by staff and also form part of teacher induction. So what did we do? 6 students visited and observed 6 lessons with 6 categories for discussion and had 6 conversations with students and teachers afterwards, and then presented and discussed 6 examples of highly effective practice to and with staff. This is an example of the 6 headings that we used. This is the video of us talking to a teacher about after we just visited his class. So we're here with Mr. O'Brien, who's just been in his class, and we're going to talk about the things we noticed under the 6 headings of relationship, teaching methods, environment and routine, assessment and feedback, homework and study, and what do students value. I'm Ella.
I'm Majella. And I'm Nadine.
I'm Stephen O'Brien, teacher of history and English here in St Aidan's Community School. I'm delighted to have the care of the class today.
So the first thing we're going to be starting with is relationships. What I noticed with the class was that you had a really good relationship with your students. Like, you knew what they liked, you know, like when you were talking about the football, like you said, like Liverpool lost, like it was a bad match, and you knew students in the classroom like knew about that, and you talked about like how you guys were upset about that and stuff, so you knew what your students were looking for in the class, you know, and that was a good thing to like make them feel more comfortable, like they knew that they could talk to you about that stuff as well. And I noticed that everyone was very respectful while not only you were talking, but when other students were talking, and how it was just a great balance in the classroom.
Yeah, just to say on relationships, Ella, I think as teachers, we're all relationship builders first and foremost. I think sometimes people use the word connection. You know, connection is very important in teaching. And before you can move the learning forward, you have to work hard on relationships. And certainly that's something I work hard on, and I'm delighted to hear you notice that.
Some of the teaching methods in the class I found were really good, where the learning intentions were on the board for as soon as they walked in, and like they knew exactly like what to take down. And then you also like read through them, so they understood what the intentions were.
Yeah, like so for me, I've been going on about this in school for a long time, learning intentions, and we all do it in the school here, and it's good practice, you know, it gives the kids great direction in terms of what we're doing in the class, and like you said yourself, you knew straight away to take it down, and just gives you a pointer as to where we're going in class with the learning.
At the start of the class, everyone was like quiet, and they just sat down and took out their books and took down the learning intention. I also noticed that the desks are good for individual work and group work.
Yeah, so again, Nadine and Noel, as I teach Nadine, but I pride myself on the room being very clean and very ordered. I think it's important, structure is important, but with that structure and order comes consistency. And like you said, that the students knew what to do when to do it and to impact and work with me during the lesson.
So the assessment, like the feedback that I got from it was that the class was very like comfortable. It was just a very nice classroom. Like, it felt very warm. The aura, the atmosphere was very good. Students just felt like they could get stuff done. And also, when I was talking to them, they said that, you know, it was very good to like sit in a group as well. Like, so if you're sitting like near people you know, and when you're doing group work, it's better when you have that kind of relationship with somebody else as well, because it makes you more comfortable to work with them.
Yeah, just on that, like, I don't believe in seating plans or anything like that, so I let the kids sit where they want to. You probably heard me talk about one kid in particular who had moved and moved back. I think they learn better when they're with their friends. They know the situation. If they don't behave or work, they move seats. But certainly for group work, you know, sit wherever you want, and that helps, I think. I'd really like to thank the students there for that experience there today. It really affirmed what I believe as a teacher, as a practitioner in the educational world. It was amazing to hear their feedback, and to be honest with you, it was probably one of the highlights of my professional career to now.
This is an example of the templates that we used, and they will be available to look at after we finish the presentation. So we presented at a staff meeting our programme to all the staff, and one of our teachers said, "My teaching tomorrow will be better because of what you told me today." We also presented to our new teachers. So our programme is now being brought in as part of teacher induction, and the feedback we received from that, will be so helpful for my teaching going forward. Great to hear from students the effective things that I can implement straight away. So our findings. So from the 6 headings that we looked at, we found 6 findings. The first finding was, students said the relationship they have with the teacher is more valuable to them than anything they learn, but when it is there, they learn better. So we observed that from the first 5 minutes are the most important of a class. When the students are coming in, the teachers are greeting them, talking about, you know, how's your day yesterday? Like, students don't really get to see that stuff in the preparation that goes into it, so it was really rewarding to be able to see that. I'd like to invite up Nadine to present the next finding.
Hi, the second finding was that students love clear learning intentions discussed, explained and reviewed every class. These should be related to study and homework. There must be a demonstration at the end of class or in an ongoing way that the learning intention has been achieved. For example, we visited an LCA class where the learning intentions was to build a tower of paper, and by the end of class, the students have broke the previous class record. And it was really fun to see people have fun and do work at the same time.
Majella could present next.
So the next finding was, when we went to a class, a teacher made and modeled mistakes themselves to show students to not be afraid to challenge and correct them. A teacher made it okay to make mistakes and be human.
The best feedback concentrated on what the students got right. It was an individual conversation in private outside of class. Teacher focused on what they did and need to concentrate and work on next. So one of the classes we visited was right after the mocks, and it was a 6-year class, and the teacher took each student out and explained to them individually what they did well, and it wasn't focused on what you know, this is what you did bad, it was this is what you did good and what you can build on. So it was great to see that.
The fifth finding was homework is not consistent and meaningful. We need to review locally and nationally what the purpose of it is. Is homework just given for the sake of it, or are parental expectations set in the wrong agenda? So we spoke to a teacher and he said that one of the first mistakes he made as a new teacher to the school was that he gave loads of homework to his students just to impress the teachers. Or not the teachers, the parents, sorry. Then as he was going on in his years, he realised that he wasn't making the students happy and that he needed to put their needs before giving the right expectation to the parents. Sorry.
Our last finding was the LCA course activity and methodology should be more common in the LC. So LCA stands for Leaving Cert Applied, and it's a different way to sit the Leaving Cert. So the ELC is the established Leaving Cert, which is the traditional Leaving Cert. And we went into an LCA class, and being a student in traditional and being able to be in an LCA class was a very different experience. It wasn't all sitting down and taking down everything and writing. It was everyone up, and they were very, hands-on and very practical, which was great. So the Spotlight program is a voluntary program, but it's becoming more contagious as more students and teachers have signed up to do it. As the level of engagement increases, teachers become more empowered, which means teaching becomes more powerful. And learners are empowered, which means learners become more powerful. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As a former classroom teacher, a lot of what you presented there is very familiar, and I completely agree with you. We have remarkably about 7 minutes for a question or two. So if you would like to ask a question, would you please tell us who you are and who you're directing your question to? To Mikołaj, our first speaker, to Arthur, our second, and to Kevin Shortall and St. Aidan's Community School, our third set of speakers. Thank you.
I have a microphone here if anyone wants. I've got one and then two. Hi, I'm Michelle Templeton, ex-member of the Centre for Children's Rights here at Queen's, just recently left a month, hence the happiness on my face. Only joking, only joking, only joking. Only joking. So this is a question for St. Aidan's. My God, guys, thanks so much for your presentation, it was brilliant. I had a conversation yesterday actually with someone whose child has just started primary 2 here in Northern Ireland, and that would be what, about 5 or 6 years of age going on here. Anyway, she was not complaining, but mentioned to her mummy that, why do you have to learn so much? Why can't you not play in P2? And I had said to her mummy, well, isn't that great feedback for you to give to the school? So it's great to see your presentation today. I'm just wondering, when you did your evaluations and you gave your feedback to teachers, was there maybe a not so good teacher that you had to give feedback to, and how did they take that? Or maybe that's your next presentation.
So all the feedback that we gave was very nice feedback, very positive. And if teachers wanted, so we gave them the option of if you want to do better and you want to, notice some things that maybe we think you can do better, they obviously said yeah, but there was no teachers that we were everything you did was wrong, It was very much constructive. Thank you.
How you doing? Nicola Mannion from Mary Immaculate College, Limerick, and my question is also for St. Aidan's Community School. Really enjoyed your presentation. I thought what you did was fabulous, and I'm wondering, how do schools get involved in this programme? Is it a nationwide programme? Is it something you developed yourselves? I'm not sure if you addressed that, I might have missed it. That's the first part of the question. I do have another tiny question as well then.
So this project stemmed, it's been ongoing for a while now, but about 2 or 3 years ago we had a podcast that was about, different ways that students like to learn, and from that we developed that, it would be easier if students gave feedback directly to teachers so that they could understand more, and it was I mean, we would love to make it nationwide, so we'll see, I suppose.
I'd love to see it nationwide as well. Yeah, congratulations. And just the second part of that question, did teachers volunteer to take part in it, or was it ran throughout the whole school, or how did you organise that part? And what about the teachers who didn't take part?
So it was offered out to all teachers, and at first we had a few teachers that wanted to do it, but as they found out more about the programme, that it wasn't, you know, students coming in telling them this is what you're doing wrong, it was all very constructive. A lot of teachers were really on board and they really want to do it, and we've gone through our first phase, which was just a few teachers, but now we have, you know, more students that want to do it, more teachers that want to do it, so hopefully we'll get, you know, more out of it. So, and it's all voluntary, yeah, it's all teachers reaching out to us.
Congratulations, absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Any final question?
We have time for one more question and then we have our first tea break. Have we? Have we got till 11:30? I thought we had, it's 11:40.
It is 5 past.
My goodness, that is going exceptionally well. I'm way ahead of myself.
They were just very concise.
Actually, we've got another 15 minutes for questions, so fire away.
Yeah. One here and then I'll come to you. Oh, right, okay. 2 mics for you.
Okay. Hello, Arthur. My question is going to you. My name is Corinne Latham and I'm from SEA in Northern Ireland. I'm a moonlighting school principal, so I'm very curious. You made a really interesting comment at the start of your presentation about the fact that you attend an online school, and obviously a number of our children don't actually have that option here, and I'd be really interested to hear your perspective of what do you think in terms of that right to participation, and what options have been available to you as part of a wider, maybe more global community.
Yeah, brilliant. So I knew someone was going to ask a question on that. I was waiting. That's why I put it in there. But yeah, so coming from sort of like an online school, I've done that for a year. So I've had experiences definitely within sort of mainstream traditional environments, and then obviously the last year within that environment as well. And like, I think hopefully the models could be translated into like just a sort of like general school as well, because it's all like the project-based elements. I think the online aspect of it is almost a little bit like secondary. It just means that we sort of do have that global community without people having to go to like an international school. Like it's based in Dubai and they have, you know, like a hub there. But yeah, I think like, you know, we have people for example in like Nigeria, in Uganda, we've got people as well, and I think like internet connection and things like that is always a little bit of a barrier for them, but I think the school works to do what they can to try and prevent that being a barrier to them. But again, it's like you're never going to be able to find an entire solution to one of these things. I think with technology and with things like that, that's potentially always going to be an issue. You have to try and find ways to work around it, depending on what works best for that young person and for like the environment that they want to be in. As far as, I guess, participation within that goes, of course, like we want young people to be able to participate in whatever model works best for them, because I know there are so many different ways that young people can learn and can be educated, and that just so happens to be the one that I found, and there are like only 40 other people doing it, so it's not sort of that common, but I guess you would hope that people will listen to what young people have to say about the ways that they want to experience their education, and then they'll take that forward and hopefully try and adapt the whole model to suit what they're asking for. I hope that answers it a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the problems we are maybe experiencing in this kind of post-pandemic world is that some children don't want to go to school. They didn't want to go back. Maybe some of the teachers didn't want to go back too. Maybe you could find that out. But I do think that we have to think of other ways of doing things, and I was just curious to see why you maybe had opted for that. Was that your choice, or did your parents encourage you?
Well, it's a funny story actually. Just for context, so I'm on the autistic spectrum as well, so that may come into things, hence special interest children's rights. But yeah, so I think I really worked well in the pandemic environment. I enjoyed personally doing online learning. It meant that I could experience education without having to worry about like, where do I sit at lunchtime? And all of those questions that came up a lot in like the traditional school environment. So I really enjoyed that, and then I went back, did a year in mainstream traditional school before transitioning to online. And then I was literally just scrolling through Instagram, and I was a bit frustrated with how the education system was. I was thinking, exams are coming up sort of soon, and I don't really just want to be memorizing things. I know what I love, and I want to just focus my attention on that and see how that can be embedded within other areas. So I was kind of had that in the back of my mind. I was scrolling through Instagram. Then it came up that they were offering a scholarship at this new school, first cohort. And I thought, all right, I'm going to apply for this. Did an application in like a night. Then they told me, oh, you've been accepted for an interview. So I'm like, yay, great. So do the interview. That goes great. And then the principal, who I'm on Zoom with, is like, oh, it'd be really great if we could meet your parents whilst you're doing this. And I think, oh no, I haven't even told my parents I'm doing this yet. So that was a very brisk conversation of running down the stairs being like, please can you just buy into this for like 10 minutes? And I guess they must have faked it really well because I was accepted. So yeah, that's basically how it happens. But yeah, and they were like, okay, we support your decision. We're going to look into it a little bit. But they were very, encouraging of me following my dreams and doing what I wanted. So that was quite useful. All right, thanks.
Hello, Cleona O'Neill from the Department of Education in Dublin, and it's a question for all three groups, I suppose. So you've all spoken in different ways, or mentioned in different ways, the roles that young people are taking on. And I just wondered, from your different experiences of the different engagements that you're involved in, how important has training for young people been? So, for example, you were talking about facilitators and the use of young people as facilitators. But I suppose how available and how important is training, and I suppose what would you have people look out for in that space?
Mikołaj, would you like to come up first?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, I think that training is crucial, actually, because when you are going to, raise awareness, right, or to be a leader in some field, you do have to be trained first. It's obvious and it should be done, right? So in this case, of course, we do have to train first our future leaders, our future generations, our futures, for example, student ombudspersons, and this is why I think the training is extremely vital in this regard. Yeah, well, can you repeat because the...
Is there anything that has worked particularly well or not well in that space?
Yeah, well, my presentation was mainly about the legal topics. So the methods are quite different than the pedagogical elements and fields, right? Because so in this regard, well, the dogmatic analysis, right, in the presentations, but also the cases, the analysis of the specific cases is crucial here, right? So the casuses or something like that is a really educational method, and it works really, really well.
Yeah, great question. So I agree that training is like really vital as well, especially for young people. Coming at it from sort of my angle, like I've had quite a lot of like ad hoc training in my time. Like, I have training on like the Welsh participation standards and UNICEF training and that sort of thing. It hasn't really been like one cohesive program. And I think that's been quite interesting because obviously I've got to experience different methods of doing it. And I definitely think, as I hope my presentation sort of touched upon, when it's young people driven and it's young people facilitating those training sessions, that's good. And that really helps to engage those young people on an authentic level. But obviously creating that would hopefully become a cycle, but it's like, where do you sort of start that off with? Because that first cohort of facilitators need to feel comfortable in that space. They need to be able to develop skills first. So yeah, I think training in general, being really purposeful, knowing why we're doing that, what's driving this, to hopefully help motivate them within that space to want to continue it, and just kind of using creativity and having fun and creating bonds between those young people as well, I think is really important, as well as making sure that we're covering the material in an adaptable way that hopefully works with that space of young people as well. And I think, yeah, as much as it can be sort of youth-led and driven by them, I would always encourage that where possible, yeah.
I too think that training is important. It's nice to know, what you're doing and be informed and stuff. And most of the training that I've overgone in the past few years has been from the ACCS, and I think that they have it well down. They're very informative and great at what they do. So, thank you.
Okay, final question. Okay.
If there are no more questions. But before we break up, could we have one more final applause for our speakers, please? Thank you.